Coach Kavanaugh was weighing in on Conor McGregor versus Poirier, and basically all Coach Kavanaugh said is that Dustin Poirier will never forget the kind of beating that Conor put on him the first time. And Coach Kavanaugh is correct. Dustin may deny it, and Dustin's team may deny it, but you don't forget those things. You guys can relate to that. Well, it could have been a holiday, Thanksgiving, with your cousin when you were 5 years old and your cousin was 9 and he threw you on the living room floor. No, you don't forget those things. The bigger question is, does it matter? I mean, does one have anything to do with the other contest? Just because you remember something happened, what is it? What is the message that you're trying to put out there? And the message is that somebody comes out apprehensive. This is a bigger theme and phenomenon in the world of boxing than it is MMA. But many boxers who will be undefeated, 25, 28, and 0, world champions, they get knocked out one time, they're never the same again. Happened with Roy Jones Jr. to offer an example of a name that you would know, but the first time that he goes down, he's just easier to knock out again. That isn't because his chin got worse, even though the announcers tell you that's what it is. That's not what it is. It's because he's now a little bit shy. He's wondering somewhere in his head, am I going to get knocked out? And anytime in fighting, when you are trying to attack your opponent, you are now exposing yourself. Right? Chin down and hands up. You guys get that concept. Well, if I want to hit you, I've got to remove one of those hands. There's your opening. Now it's a question of timing and speed. But if I want to come after you, I've got to open myself up. But if I just got knocked out, I'm going to wonder and worry, do I ever want to take my hands away from my face? So now a guy is what we call gun shy. That's what leads to the domino effect with the knockdowns and the knockouts. Now, I bring that to you because it's cause and effect. Is Dustin going to remember that he got whipped by Conor? Sure. What's to say Dustin's not the kind of athlete where that motivates him? Dustin Poirier, who was 26 years old the time he got knocked out by Conor, his first time in the spotlight, falls down, gets up, comes all the way to a world championship. Goes and fights in an arena against Khabib Nurmagomedov, the biggest Muslim athletic star in the world, in an arena that they built for them. Took out other world champions along the way. Max Holloway comes to mind. I'm just sharing with you what's to say the fact that he remembered that happening is not going to be a positive. That's where it starts to cut. Does it matter? I mean, let's say Dustin put it behind him. Okay, great. Guess what? They start the match 0-0. Let's say Dustin remembers it and it haunts him and keeps him up at night. Guess what? They start the match 0-0. In that regard, one has nothing to do with the other. I would imagine it was quite difficult for Michael Bisping to overcome the knockout that he suffered to Dan Henderson, particularly considering every knockout reel from the time that fight happened to today includes that knockout. But when they redid their rematch, they started 0-0. And coaches will often have these interesting phrases. You must be dedicated. You must be hungry. You must be motivated. You must be tough. You'll have all of these phrases. And the coach isn't wrong if you were to take a collective body of work of champions. You got 10 champions, you study all of them. You find the commonalities that they all have. They're driven and desire. All of these buzzwords, but it's true. They all were driven and they all had desire and they all were tough and they all worked hard. It's true. But that's not anywhere within the rules. So one thing that coaches forget to tell the athletes, nowhere within the unified rules of mixed martial arts does confidence get you a point. Nowhere does toughness give you a point. Nowhere does desire or dedication or will or hunger. Nowhere. Nowhere is that recognized or scored in MMA. Clayton Hires has put it the most simple I've ever heard it, and he has put it the best I've ever heard it. I hit you and you don't hit me. That is the game we are playing. Now, how I'm going to go about doing that versus how I'm going to go about stopping you from doing it, this is another conversation. This game is I hit you and you don't hit me. That is how this is scored. So if you want to bring up that Dustin will never forget the beating that he got, I tend to believe that's true. I couldn't imagine forgetting something. You'd have to be part stupid to forget something. How would you forget a meaningful part of your career? You've only done this 25 times and you forgot the biggest one that you ever did. And by the way, you came and said, of course you remember it. What the hell's that got to do with this outcome would be my retort.